think Mark Twain answered that question. Yeah, if you keep your mouth shut, people might think you're stupid. But if you open your mouth, you remove all doubt.
Okay, so you could be both a cherish and a shelter.
I accept that in your dreams, I will be quiet.
That's what I'm saying. And you got earplugs.
All right, the year of starting the sponsors, and then we'll get into the Gemara. Year of learning, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratoga Bat Yisrael Dov, in her memory, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher, friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Hasna Bat Yitzchak Aharon, many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Zechen Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. A month of, that's what it is?
Yeah. No, Bas Rivka, I'm sorry.
Leah Bracha Bas Rivka?
Yeah. Why, I don't, with the father's name, I don't know, but she had another.
No, it doesn't give a father's name. All it says is Leah Bracha.
I know, but maybe they thought, but in the dedication thing for the weekend that she paid for,
Oh, yeah?
it said Bas Rivka.
Oh, okay. Month of learning, Rebecca Witonsky, Louis and Susan Witonsky, in memory of Rebecca's uncle and Louis's brother, Pesach Ben Yosef Yehudis. Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her mother, Yita Bat Nachman Ben Yamin. Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his brother, Yaakov Ben Avraham. Have a week of learning by Evelyn and Isaac Blachor, in memory of her father, Harav Yeshayahu Yitzchak Ben Harav Yisrael Yechiel Halevi. Judy Iger, in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef Mordechai. Today being the 27th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a day of learning by Toby and Gary Greenstein, in memory of her sister, Elka Bat Yosef Menachem, by Jack Kaufman, in memory of his mother-in-law, Chana Bat Osher. May the Shamas have an aliyah the Yeshua. May the Shamas have an aliyah crank of fear of the Yeshua Shem Atliya and the Chol B'nai Yisrael good convention.
Amen.
Okay.
Should record that for me, Friday.
Okay. All right.
So, Rabbi Green,
Yes, sir.
make the announcement that
Well, I'm gonna tell them in the office to put it in the bulletin.
you put in the bulletin, but
That
over here,
it's
you know.
Thursday at 4:30 on the July the 7th.
Right, and you could send out an email if people who are not part of the DAF wish to attend. They're
Yeah.
more than welcome, and
to
they
give the
should
names,
inform
either Mordechai or
Melvin.
myself.
Right. Okay.
Melvin.
Okay. All right.
I assume everybody's here coming with their wives. You're coming with your wife. You're coming without your wife. And you're coming with your wife. And
He's getting married. It wouldn't because we.
oh yeah, we forgot to tell you, Kenny, we're doing a skit.
Yeah, I know. Like
Because like for instance, we're gonna have people who play the
Very
Chayre, and we're gonna have somebody.
I thought Mel was joking
And
with
we're
me.
gonna have somebody
no,
take
no,
off
no.
the
shoe.
shoe, and you and your wife are gonna be the Husn and Kala in honor of
Yeah,
the
right.
Gemara.
And we'll have, and we'll have.
So Karen has a week and 2
Yeah,
days
but wait
to
a
go
second,
buy a
Mordechai,
white
wait-
dress.
Wait a second, Mordechai. We're gonna have one of the women do chalitza.
Right.
So, you know, and no sneakers.
It's gonna be me and my wife are gonna do Chalitza, because for 57 years I've been wanting to give
and
it.
she called me up last night. She wants it spit, but I spit, that's it. I mean, you know where it's
But
going.
she wanted to know, could she spit in my face?
Exactly, that's what she asked me last night.
She didn't
And I
want to
said,
spit on the
I
floor.
said she can spit because it's in a restaurant in your face, exactly.
All right.
You have to be careful, you'd be like those kids with the.
With the ring.
The ring and says,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Erwin, how tall are you? You gonna be a coffee?
You know?
All
right.
Oh, goodness.
If somebody will pay for it, I'll send my grandson a ticket. He'll come down and be a customer.
Listen, Avram, go home a couple of days later, so you'll be.
We get the 11-year-old girl to be the.
Tommy, you gonna still be here next Thursday? No?
Unfortunately, he's going away.
Uh,
All right, let's go.
all right,
Why don't we make?
okay. Let's, we're gonna get started.
Fourth
and we'll-
word on.
Okay.
Kufiyud Bay.
I just want to pick up real quick and then we'll move on.
Let it move.
Okay, we're still dealing with questions of Miyun. All right, and as we continue, all right, today's daf is Kaf Yud Bet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would just remember the fact that the Rabbah said on the bottom of Kaf Yud Aleph, okay, Afilu Tema Rabbi Yossi, you could even accord to the view of Rabbi Yossi Khan, Lo Kama Rabbi Yossi Hatam Ella Ba'arusato Dagispa, right? That in terms of the fact that he's familiar with her, accustomed to her. Aval Eshet Achiv, but in terms of the relation with his sister-in-law, okay, Mivzaz Bazuz Mine. Okay, and he might be embarrassed in that kind of a situation. Okay, that's where we finished. Okay, and all right, so in other words, right? Okay, so the Gemara starts off now with a new statement on top of Kaf Yud Bet Amud Aleph. Okay,
She claims nothing happened.
okay.
That's
So
what-
we're talking about the fact that the question the Gemara is going to start dealing with is if it's within a month, if it's after a month, if it's more than a month, all things like that. Okay. Ad shekofino to lachlotz. Okay, nikafenu liyaben. Okay, until we force him. Okay,
Instead of forcing
right?
them to
So what do we do? Right, shekofino to lachlotz. Nikafenu. Maybe we should force him to do yibum instead of forcing him to do chalitza. Okay, right? So therefore, what happens? Says the Gemara, Amarav b'shagita yotze mitachet yada. His explanation. He says that she has the get, but they have not consummated the marriage, and therefore she needs chalitza. Okay.
There's abundance they could get because of it prohibits yibum,
It's
but they still have to do chalitza.
right because it's the Rabbanan. All right, so meitive. So they challenge this. Yabama she'amra b'toch shloshim yom. Okay, so if she said within the 30 days, lo nivalti, that the 30 days after they brought her into the household and they're living together, bein shehu omer ba'alti, bein shehu omer lo ba'alti, regardless of whether he says we had relations or we didn't have relations, kofino to sheyachlotz la, we force him to do chalitza. Lachar shloshim yom, if it's after 30 days, mevakshim himenu l'sheyachlotz la. We request, okay, we implore him, okay, to do chalitza. Ha'amart niv'alti, but he said we had relations. Okay, he ameret niv'alti. She says we had relations. V'hu omer lo niv'alti, and he claims they did not have relations. Harei ze yotzi baget. Okay, here we say in that situation, okay, that you don't need the chalitza. Okay, just require the get, right?
Require? He already gave her a get.
No, this is a different situation.
This is second case.
This is another case. Okay, another example. All right, who omer ba'alti? He claims we had relations. V'hi omeret lo niv'alti, and she claims we did not have relations. Afal pi shechazar v'amar lo ba'alti. Even though afterwards he comes back and recants and then says, no, we did not have relations. Tzrich get v'chalitza. In that situation, they require both the get and to do chalitza.
Because it's
One to break the
ambiguous.
wedding, one to break the zika. Okay, because you
If
don't
they
know,
didn't, you need
you
chalitza.
don't
If
know
they
what's
did,
the
you need
truth.
get. And
Okay.
it's ambiguous.
Amar Rabbi Ami, says Rabbi Ami, tzricha chalitza im gita. According to Rabbi Ami, he says, no, we need to give her the chalitza, do the chalitza and the get at the same time. Okay, one big ceremony. Okay, Rav Ashi Amar. Okay, well, you know how long it can take to do a get? You know that.
I've been there. Been
Okay.
there, done that.
Okay, so Rav Ashi says, Hatam, in that case, get lezikato. Okay, the get comes and that also deals with the bond. It breaks it.
Now, it
Hacha,
could be a rabbinic get.
right? Hacha get lebiato. In this case, the difference is that the get comes. Why do you need both? Because the get comes to negate the
If
fact that they had relations, which would have been a right to marriage as opposed to
a
the
rabbinic.
rabbinic marriage. Okay? Ha hinhu shnehem modim da'atu lakame derabba. So we get a little story here. There were two people, man and woman, who came and acknowledged before when they came before Rabbah. Okay, and what?
Nothing ever happened.
Okay, what happens? Amar laho Rabbah, and Rabbah responds to them. Okay, tells chalutzu la v'sharu la tigra. He tells one of his students, arrange a chalitza for them, and then we'll be finished with the case. Okay. Amarle Rav Sharavya, the Rava. So one of his colleagues says to Rava, hold on a second, Vahatanya, but isn't it taught elsewhere with a braita? Tzricha get v'chalitza. So we need both the get and chalitza, because we don't know for sure, was there bia there or not? Okay, Amar Le. Okay, so he said to him,
He replied.
right? He says to Rav Shravya, Itanya, Tanya. If it's taught, so it has been taught. Okay, in other words, he stands corrected, all right, Rava, and therefore accepts Rav Shravya's citation of the fact that of that mission. Okay. Now, a new case, new situation. By Mine Hon, what a name. Beret de Rav Nachman, me de Rav Nachman. Okay, all right. So the Hon, who is the son of Rav Nachman, asks his father, in that kind of a situation, Sarata Mahu, what's the status of the co-wife? Amarle, he tells his son, V'chi mipnei she'anu kofin u'mevakshin te'asar tzara. Are you going to say because we force him or we request of him to do, okay, what he has to do, give the chalitza? Are we going to say that that has an impact on the tzara, on the co-wife? Okay, in other words, that shouldn't have an impact on it.
We make the assumption that if they lived together for 30 days, bia occurred and it was a yibum.
Okay, new piece. Hanoderet hana'ah v'chulei. Okay, the Mishnah said, what about a situation where the woman took a vow not to have any benefit from her brother-in-law? Okay, and then the Mishnah, remember, went on to say, was it done during the life of the husband, after the death of the husband, so on. Okay, so Tnan Hatem, it was taught there as follows. Berishona hayu omrim, originally they used to say, Shalosh nashim yotzot. There were three women who could be divorced, okay, or put out against their will. All right, what were they? Okay, right. V'not lot ketubah, but they still receive their ketubah payment, even though they may be divorced against their will. Okay, who were they? One, ha'omeret tmeya ani lach. One is the situation that if the wife of a Kohen were to become raped, okay, that he must be divorce her as she's forbidden to him. Okay. Second case, right? Hashamayim beini leveinech. Heaven is between me and you. In other words, she claims that he's incapable of having any kind of relations, and as a result, it's not my fault. God did it. Okay. Second,
No, God is my, I don't have, there's no video cam in the bedroom, but
right?
God is my witness that
you're not able to function. Okay. Third example, Netula ani min haYehudi. Okay, his situation is I am unable to have relations with any Jew because it's too difficult for her to have relations. Okay? That would be the third case. All right? Again, not necessarily her fault. Okay? What happens, says the Gemara? Chazru lomar shelo tehei isha notenet eineha ba'acher umikalkelet al ba'ala. The rabbis did a gezerah, okay, that they were concerned that a woman might use subterfuge by saying one of these kinds of examples because she has a guy on the side and she wants to marry him and get rid of the husband, divorce the husband. Ella says, rather, says the Gemara, ha'omeret, one who says, Tmeya anilach, okay, in that first example, tavi raya l'davareha, she must bring some sort of proof, okay, that she had been raped and there was now tamei to her Kohen husband.
Wouldn't it be public knowledge?
Not necessarily.
Oh,
A rape? Not necessarily.
No, he breaks into their house.
Okay. All
And
right.
in modern times, that would be a police report or a rape
Okay.
kit.
Right. Second case. Hashamayim beini leveinech. She may call on Hashem to be her witness that the husband is incapable of relations. Ya'asu derech bakasha. Okay. According to the explanation that I had, okay, that the rabbis do some sort of attempt at reconciliation. Right? At first, if that doesn't work, then they request him to do chalitza.
Get him play out.
Okay? All right. The third doesn't always work. Okay? Third example. I'll tell you a story afterwards, privately. Okay? Third example. Netula ani min haYehudim. Her third case, as we said, was that I am unable to have relations. Okay? Right? So what happens? Yafer chelko. Okay, that removes his portion.
No, he
Okay.
should be Mayfair.
Okay, so he has to remove her vow, his
Only on
portion,
him,
his portion of her vow. All right.
which is problematic. In other words, we said earlier, we give that the reason she gets her ksuba is that we believe her when she said that it is
It's
too
too difficult for
him.
her.
And now we're saying that he makes it possible, he removes that. So basically, we're saying he forces her.
Umisham
Did you
shato.
See that issue?
No, I didn't see any note to that effect.
No, I didn't either, but that's
Okay.
an issue.
All right. Umisham shato, and he has relations with him. Okay. Utehei netula min haYehudim, and then she will be forbidden. Okay, to
If
any
he
other
ever is
Jews.
finished with him. So
Okay.
that means that's a problem now for the Yavam.
Right. Okay. Now what happens? So the Gemara asks, Ibailahu. So they asked, in regard to this third example, where he's been mayfair her vow for him, but it still prohibits any other man to have relations with her. Netula ani min haYehudim. In that case, liyabam mahu. What's going to be the status if he dies without progeny and she has to go to a yabam? Okay. Mi maska adata damait ba'ala v'nafla kame yabam olo. Does it come onto her mind? Does she even consider the possibility that her husband is going to die and she's going to have to have a yibum or not? Rav Amar, says Rav, yabam eino kebal, that the husband is not like, the yabam is not like the husband. Shmuel Amar, yabam harehu kebal. And Shmuel disagrees and says, no, the yabam is like the husband in this situation. Amar Abai. So Abai now responds, Kivate de Rav mistabra. The view of Rav, okay, which was yabam eino kebal,
Which means he can. It's
Okay.
counterintuitive.
okay, which implies if that's the case, okay, since he has the mitzvah just like a husband would have a mitzvah. That seems logical. That's not. Why? Hanoderet hana'am yibama b'chaye ba'ala. Later on, our text says, one who makes a vow, okay, to refrain from any benefit from her brother-in-law. during the life of her husband, kofin oto sheyachlos. We force him to do chalitza. Ve'im ita demaska ada'ata. And if it were to occur to her mind, okay, what would we do? Mivakshin, as we go over, mi ba'ele. Okay, do we request it? Is that what we should be saying? Hacha b'mayas kinan. What are we dealing with here? Be'isha sheyesh labanim. We must be dealing then with a situation of a woman who does, where there are children present. The kuli hai lo maska adata. And that's the reason why she doesn't even consider about the whole issue of a brother-in-law in Hebrew.
But if she has kids, then he's an heir.
Right, but that's why she doesn't,
Have it. But
he can't do anything because it's an erva, but she doesn't even, it doesn't
no,
even
then
cross
why
her
is there
mind
no man
then.
out there?
Okay? Aval ein labanim, but if there are no progeny present, my mevakshin, why do we simply say that we requested of him? Adatani, maybe we should have been teaching, imnit kava lechach, afilu b'chaye ba'ala, mevakshin mimenu she'echlotzla. Okay, that even maybe in this case, where it's taught that if it was her intent, that even during the life of the husband, why do we simply say that we requested of him, okay, to do chalitza? Liflog, let's make a distinction. Velitne, and teach it this way, bedida, in regarding her. Bamed varim amorim, what are we talking about? B'sheyesh labanim, in a situation where she has children. Aval ein labanim, but in a situation where there are no children, mevakshin, then that's when we requested of him. Elashmamina, rather we learn from this, lo shna yesh labanim, lo shna ein labanim. There's no difference whether she has children or she does not have children.
It's forbidden.
Kofin oto kerav. We force him, according to Rav said, shmamina, and that's what we learn. That's how we depend with.
What is the
Adrana
vow-
lach beit shama,
What is the vow that she made before?
that I will have nothing to do physically, socially, financially,
But then-
etc., with my brother-in-law.
But before that, it talks about a vow.
Yeah, that's the vow she makes. She
Yeah,
could
there are
make
two-
that vow when her
Before-
husband's
when
alive.
her husband is still alive.
Okay.
If she makes it when her husband's alive, then we have to figure out, did she include her brother-in-law? in
Right.
it? But if she makes it after her husband dies,
Then it's certain.
no, because
Because
she's
then
making a vow against a mitzvah. You can't make a vow, I'm gonna be Machal Shabbos. It doesn't
Alright.
work.
we'll see. Okay, our next, since we were talking about Chere Shotev Katan, I now spends time on that. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm going to go into the Gemara, but I want to point out that this is a long Mishnah. Okay, and again, I'm sure if we had diagrams, okay, I'm not going to put diagrams up on the board, but I'm sure there are diagrams that,
Nope.
okay, no, not here. I have another safer at
Oh, there
home.
are no Art Scroll
Okay.
threw up its hands. No
Okay,
diagram.
the others safer that I'm sure has diagrams. Okay, if need be, I'll look at it when I get home and I will make a copy to pass around. Okay, what happens now? Okay, right, so we're going to get through a series of examples, various situations. Okay, one, Cheresh nasa pikachat. A deaf-mute man marries a competent woman. Second, upikeach shenasa chereshet. A competent man marries a deaf-mute woman. Im ratza lahotzi yotzi. If he wants to divorce her, he divorces her. Ve'im ratza lekayem yekayem. If he wants to keep her, she's a keeper. Okay, all right. Kashem shahu kones beramiza. The same way he can bring her into his home through, and we're going to use ramiza here, sign language, exactly. Okay, Pikach hu motzi beramiza. So likewise, he is able to use some sort of sign language or symbols to divorce her. Okay? Now, new case. Pikach shenasa pikachat v'nitchasha. A competent man who married an initially competent woman who later became deaf mute. Right? Imratza yotzi. If he wants to divorce, okay, he divorces. Ve'imratza, and if he wants, yikayim, he can keep her. Nishtatet, okay. If she became totally incompetent,
That's nuts.
lo yotzi, he cannot divorce her. Okay. Third scenario, nitcharesh hu, he became deaf. O nishtata, or he became totally insane, mentally incompetent. Eino motzia olamit, he is not able to divorce her at all, forever. Okay. Now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, says Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, mipnei ma ha'isha shenitcharsha yotzah. On what basis is it that the woman who was initially competent and later became deaf mute is divorceable? V'ha'ish shenitcharesh eino motzi. But the man who becomes deaf is not able to divorce. Amrule, they said to him, Eino domeh ha'ish hamegaresh. We cannot compare the man able to give a divorce, leisha hamitgareshet, to the woman who becomes divorced. Okay, why? Shaha'isha yotzah liritzona. Okay, v'shelo liritzona. Because a woman may become divorced either willingly or unwillingly. V'ha'ish eino motzi ela lirtzono. But a man does not divorce unless according to his will. Okay, with the intent here. He'id Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudguda, but Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudguda gave the following testimony. Al hachareshet shehasiya aviha, on a deaf-mute woman who was married off by her father, implying it's a Torah standard marriage, okay? Shehi yotzah beget, that she went out with a get. Amrulo, and they said to him, Afzo kiyotzeba. Likewise, this one would go out in a similar situation.
No difference. A hareshes, you can.
Right? So the Gemara continues now, a new case. Shnei achim chershim, two deaf brothers, nisuim l'shtei achayot chareshot, are married to two deaf sisters. Oh, okay. Or l'shtei achayot pikchot, or they're married to two competent sisters. Oh, l'shtei achayot, or to two sisters, echad chareshet ve'echad pikachat, one who is deaf, mute, and one who is competent. Okay? Oh, or shnei achayot chareshot, or two sisters who are deaf, mutes, nisu'im l'shnei achim pikchim, are married to two competent brothers. O l'shnei achim chershim, or to two deaf brothers. O l'shnei achim, or to two brothers, echad cheresh ve'echad pikeach, one who is deaf mute, one who is competent. Hare elu piturin min hachalitza umin hayibum. These women are exempt from either chalitza or yibum. Okay, right? Because there's a situation where, right, there's a limit, right? Okay. Now, v'im hayu nochriot. Okay, you have a situation of either erva or a situation of they're limited in their abilities. Okay. If, however, the women were not sisters, okay, right? Nachriot, right? Yikan nusu, he can marry them. Ve'im ratzu lahotzi yotziu. And if he wants, he can divorce them. Shnei achim, that's period. Okay, new piece, new sentence. Shnei achim, two brothers. Echad cheresh ve'echad pikeach. One is deaf mute, one is competent. Nisu'im l'shtei achayot pikchot. I'm married to two competent sisters. Meit cheresh ba'al ha'pekachat. Okay, the deaf mute husband married to the competent woman dies. Ma ya'aseh pikech ba'al ha'pekachat. What should be done by the competent husband of the competent wife? Teitzei mishum achot isha. Okay, that the widow goes out, okay, without anything. No yibum and no chalitza because of achot isha. Okay. Now, next case, next scenario of that scene.
Pairings.
Okay, meit pikeach ba'al hapikachat. The competent husband of the competent wife dies. Ma ya'aseh cheresh ba'al pikachat. What should be done by the deaf mute husband of the competent wife? Motzi ishto baget. He must divorce his wife. Ve'eshet achiv asura le'olam. And the wife,
The widow.
okay, the widow, who's his is the
widow.
brother's widow, okay, right? Asura is forbidden to him forever,
Or anyone else.
for anybody, okay?
But why does he have to divorce his wife?
Because she is what? She's brother of his wife. Okay?
But if she stays with him, then there's nothing done, nothing wrong.
No, he can't marry her. He can't do yibum with her. Okay,
So he becomes a Yavama.
right?
So
Can't do yibum with her. Right, she can't do yibum with her, and she can't marry anybody else. Okay, right. New piece. Shnei achin, two brothers pikchim who are competent. Nisu'im mishtei achayot, who are married to two sisters. Echad chareshet ve'echad pikachat. One is a deaf mute, one is competent. Meit pikeach ba'al chareshet. The competent husband of the deaf mute wife dies. Ma ya'aseh. What should be done by the competent husband of the
Normal woman.
of competent wife? Teitzei mishum achot isha. The sister-in-law goes out because she's the sinister sister. Ma meit pikeach ba'al pikachat. If the competent husband of the competent wife dies, ma ya'aseh pikeach ba'al chareshet. What should be done by the competent husband of the deaf-mute wife? Motziat ishto baget. He must divorce his wife with a get. Ve'et eshet achiv b'chalitza. And the wife of his brother, he performs chalitza.
Because he
Right.
has to divorce his wife.
Because
he has
she's
to
the
be a
sister.
deraisa,
Right,
and that's midrabanan.
right.
And then he cannot marry the sister-in-law because his
She's the
ex-wife
wife.
is
Is
still alive.
Okay. Now, could he, once he does chalitza to her, can he go back and marry?
I think he can.
I think he can too. Right?
He can remarry his wife.
His
because
wife.
Now there's no heir.
Right, exactly. Okay. Shnei achim, new situation. Two brothers. Echad cheresh ve'echad pikeach. One is a deaf mute, one is competent. Nisu'im l'shtei achayot. I'm married to two sisters. Echad chereshet ve'echad pikachat. One is deaf mute, one is competent. Meit cheresh ba'al chereshet. The deaf mute husband of the deaf mute wife dies. Maya aseh pikech ba'al pikachat. What should be done by the competent husband of the competent wife?
She goes about her.
Teitzei mishum achot isha. That sister-in-law just goes out on her own because of achot isha. Meit pikeach ba'al pikachat. The competent husband of the competent wife dies. Maya aseh cheresh ba'al chereshet. What should be done by the deaf-mute husband of the deaf-mute wife? Motziat ishto baget. He divorces his wife with a get. Ve'eshet achiv asura le'olam. And his sister-in-law, the wife of his brother, is forbidden forever. Okay, new piece again. Shnei achim, two brothers. Echad cheresh ve'echad pikeach. One is deaf-mute, one is competent. Nisu'im l'shtei nachriot pikchot. They're married to two separate competent women. Meit cheresh ba'al pikachat. The deaf-mute husband who's married to one of the competent women dies. Maya aseh pikech ba'al pikachat. What should be done by the competent husband married to a competent wife? O choletz o miyabem. He can do a choice of either chalitza or yibum. Notice, by the way, that they phrase it with chalitza first, by the
They
way,
did in
there.
the first Mishnah.
Mhm. Okay. Meit pikeach ba'al pekachat. The competent husband who's married to a competent wife dies. Maya aseh cheresh ba'al pikachat. What should be done by the deaf-mute husband of the competent wife? Kones ve'eno motzi le'olam. He marries her, but he can never divorce her. Why? Because he can't do any kind of divorce, or chalitza. Okay? New piece.
Okay,
Right?
we have.
By the way, because remember it said he can do rimazim
Yeah,
to
but
men.
here he became deaf mute after he married. So he married with words. And he can't
You found that in
divorce her.
art scroll?
I believe that has to be the
Okay,
answer.
I'm not sure.
Otherwise, why couldn't he?
Why?
if he
Because he
was-
could
if
marry
he
her
was
by
always
rimazim.
deaf mute.
He could marry her by rimazim.
Okay,
The
but
beginning of the
here
Mishnah
he
said
can't
that.
divorce her because he didn't know.
Because
sign
now he's a
language, 'cause he
charesh.
became a favorite now.
I don't know. Shnei achin pikchim nisuin l'shnei nachriot. Two competent brothers are married to two different women, two, right, not related women. Echad pikachet ve'echad chareshet. One is competent, one is deaf-mute. Meit pikeach ba'al chareshet. The husband who's competent, who's married to a deaf-mute dies. Maya aseh pikeach ba'al pikachet. What should be done by the competent husband married to a competent wife? Kones, he marries. Ve'im ratzah lahotzi, yotzi. And if he wants, he can divorce her afterwards. Meit pikeach ba'al pikachet. If the competent husband married to the competent wife dies, Maya aseh pikeach ba'al chareshet. What should be done by the competent husband married to the deaf-mute? Again, o choletz o miyabem. He can either do chalitza or yibum. New piece. Shnei achin, two brothers. Echad cheresh ve'echad pikeach. One is deaf-mute, one is competent. Nisu'im l'shnei nachriot. And they're married to two different women. Echad chereshet ve'echad pikachet. One woman is deaf-mute, one woman is competent. Meit cheresh ba'al chereshet. The husband of the deaf-mute husband who's married to the deaf-mute wife dies. Maya aseh pikech ba'al pikachet. What should be done by the competent husband married to the competent wife? Kones, he marries. Ve'im ratzah lahotzi yotzi. And if he wants to divorce, he can divorce her. Meit pikech ba'al pikachet. The competent husband married to the competent wife dies. Maya aseh cheresh ba'al chareshet. What should be done by the deaf-mute husband married to the deaf mute wife. Kones, he marries, ve'eno motzi le'olam, and he can never divorce her. Okay, right? That's another reason why I wasn't sure that it could be knit
I
kasha
think in those
afterwards.
cases,
I don't
he
know.
has to be later.
I don't know.
Because then
Okay.
it's a derisa marriage, and
Yeah.
he can't do a derisa chalitza
Right? Can't do
or
either way.
divorce.
Amar Rami Bar Chama. He says as follows: Ma'ishna, what's the difference? Cheresh v'chereshet tetakinu laho rabbanan nisuin. That for a deaf mute man, or I'm going to translate the vav here, or a deaf mute woman, that the rabbis established that they are capable of marriage. Umaishna deshota v'shota, shoteh v'shota. And what's the difference to a totally insane man or insane woman? Delo takinu laho rabbanan nisuin. That the rabbis did not enact the possibility of marriage for them. Okay? Possibility because even the rabbanan, they did not enact it for them. Okay? All right? So the Gemara says as follows, the Tanya, because we have a bright. Shoteh v'katan shenas unashim v'metim. We have a person who's totally incompetent and a minor.
Between 9 and a day.
All right, and they married women and they died. Nishotein paturot min hachalitza u'min hayibum. Their wives are exempt from either chalitza or yibum. Cheresh v'chereshet, a deaf man or a deaf mute woman. Dekaima takanta de rabbanan, where there exists a remedy according to the rabbis. Takinu laho rabbanan nisuin. The rabbis made a takana that they're able to marry, even though it's the rabbanan, right? Shoteh v'shotah. Okay, a male, a totally incompetent, female, totally incompetent. Delo kaima takanta de rabbanan, where there is no kind of remedy, okay, according to the
I think
rabbis.
this is where the lo kayama, where the marriage could not survive because they're not competent to even be married.
Okay, all right, wait till we get to the next statement. The ein adam dar im nachash, because a person does not live with a snake. Okay, in other words, a person cannot live in big fifa, in like a basket. In other words, in such close quarters. Okay, with somebody that you don't know what their going to behavior is going to be like. The same way you don't know what a snake's behavior is going to be like, whether it's going to attack or not. Okay, that's what the parallel I felt was. Okay, echat. Okay, b'kfifa achat, and it's right. Lo taknu rabbanan nisuin. Therefore, the rabbis did not enact the possibility of marriage. Umay shna katan the lo takinu rabbanan nisuin. And what is different about a minor that the rabbis did not enact rabbinic standard marriage
For a
male minor? V'charesh takinu la rabbanan nisuin. But for a deaf mute, okay, the rabbis did establish rabbinic standard marriage. Cheresh, the deaf mute, de lo ate liklal misuin. Okay, all right, where we do not have an age or status.
He'll never be able
of a
to marry
marriage, right? Okay, takinu rabbanan nisuin. The rabbis did establish a rabbinic standard. Okay, the age of status of Torah marriage, right? They didn't reach the The rabbis established a rabbinic marriage standard. Katan, the minor, da'ate leklal nisuin, who eventually will reach an age or status of Torah marriage standard. Okay, right? Lo takinu rabbanan nisuin. The rabbis did not establish a rabbinic standard of marriage for him. Vaharek tana. But what about a female minor? Da'acha leklal nisuin, v'takinu rabbanan nisuin. that for her, she will eventually reach an age or status of Torah marriage. Nevertheless, the rabbis established a rabbinic standard of marriage for her. Hatam, there in that case, okay, what we're talking about, of course, is by the brothers or the mother, shelo nahagu ba minhag hefker, so that people don't treat her
If
like
the
a
little
piece
girl
of
doesn't
garbage. Okay, all right.
should stop there.
Okay, umay shna katana de tmeya. Okay, umay shna charesha de lo tmeya. That's good. I will pick up tomorrow. All right. Okay. All right, guys.
Ay,
Okay, Mel?
Yeah.
You good? All right.
what time is it now?
9:15.
All right.
early.
We have tons of time.
Well, I don't know what time is Dr.